Welcome to Greenhouse. I'm Tony Dokoupil. The other day, I heard about a woman named Jill Stein. I heard she was considering running for president as the Green Party candidate. And here's the part that got me. This would be her second time running for president as the Green Party candidate. Evidently, I had completely missed her first campaign, along with just about everyone else in what she might call the corporate media. I've more or less missed every Green Party campaign since Ralph Nader back in 2000, and I don't think it's only me. Something is happening here. As environmental ideas have become more mainstream, the Democrats and even the Republicans seem to have adopted some of the old Green Party language, if not the actual practices. That's a sign of the party's growing influence, but also a challenge for its future. What is the role of the Green Party in 2016? Joining me now to discuss it is Karen Young, National Co-Chair. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting us, Tony.
So, what is the role of the Green Party in 2016?
Well, good question. As you know,
I don't know. My premise here is I don't know anything,
okay,
which is basically
gotcha.
true.
As you may or may not know, voter turnout in the United States is at an all-time low. In the 2014 midterm elections, only about a third of the public actually bothered to go out and vote. So when we look at that, we see that there's a real level of disengagement with the American people and the two major parties who get most of the votes. So there's a lot of reasons for that. But we think it's really important to offer an alternative. And we do offer an alternative to most Americans. Most Americans will have an opportunity to vote for the Green Party, at least in our presidential election. And also we have state parties in most states. So they run some local candidates, and so we are part of the landscape in that way. The main difference between the Green Party and the two major parties is that we don't take corporate donations. We don't have bundlers. There are no Koch brothers donating to Green Party candidates. And so that means that we don't take our orders from those people. I think most Americans have seen that the flood of corporate money into our political process has really left them out.
So you don't take corporate donations. I went to the website. I saw the mission statement, the vision, the About Us. And it's not just environmentalism. It's social justice.
That's right.
It's nonviolence. But when I go to the Republican or Democrat National Committee pages, it's not like they're for environmental degradation and violence and inequality. So the language is the same. You guys use similar language. So how is it that your positions are, in fact, different?
Well, let me give you an example, Tony. Polls have shown that a vast majority of Americans, 60 to 65%, think that our government should be investing more in renewable energy than in fossil fuels. Most Americans get that fossil fuels, one, are going to run out, and B, are polluting and destroying our planet. And you'll hear a lot of people saying, oh yeah, we get that. We need action on climate change. But the reality is that in the U.S. right now, we only have 14% of our energy coming from renewables. In Europe, the European Union has a goal of reaching 27% by 2020 or 2030. Many of their countries have already blown past that goal. In Sweden, they have 50% coming from renewables. We have 14%. Why? Because our governments don't invest in it. And so they're not listening to what people want, and they're not doing what's possible, and they're not doing what's necessary for the planet.
At the top, I made reference to corporate media, and I'm somewhat kidding, but there is a kind of mainstream perspective. There are mainstream candidates, and those candidates get covered more than those outside the mainstream.
Absolutely.
As a working journalist, not just a guy who talks on TV, I know that sometimes you just need a quote. You need a position to be reflected, and you need to find a person who stands for that position. And it's interesting that the positions of the Green Party, the quotes about renewables, you can find that within the Democratic Party. If you're doing political reporting and you need to reflect that position, you can find that position. So how do you guys make yourself essential when the language of your positions is now populating the landscape?
Well, that's a good question, and this battle is one that's fought on a lot of different fronts. At the municipal level, there are things that can be done on the city council level. There are things that can be done on the statewide level. There's things with regulatory agencies where you can pressure them to do the things they need to do, as well as federal elections. So our candidates in all of those cases are going to have their positions that are relevant to that particular situation. For example, in New York, we've had a big issue about fracking, and in our recent gubernatorial election, our candidate was the only one who took a position for a total ban on fracking. The Republican candidate was for fracking. The Democratic candidate said, well, I'm going to wait to see, what the research says. And after the election, after he lost most of the upstate counties where they're really physically dealing with fracking, he went for the ban on fracking.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had an influence on that race, and having our candidate there who was strong for the ban and was working with the movement, which is very strong throughout New York State and other states, saying fracking just doesn't work for us. We were able to achieve that.
I want to talk a bit about corporate money as well, because you're right, it does influence elections in the mainstream space, but not taking it makes it, I would imagine, very difficult to have a massive get-out-the-vote effort, to buy advertisements on TV, to get your message to the masses. How do you overcome that?
You're absolutely right. And as long as I have the opportunity, let me mention to people, our website is gp.org, and you're welcome to go there and make whatever donation you can. We have a lot of small donors around the country, and that's how we do what we do. We need to build more of a grassroots presence. We need to let more just regular Americans know that we are here, we're providing this alternative, and that we expect is going to give us the resources to be more visible. Also, we need to pressure the media for them to cover all the candidates are running for a race, for example, and you need to get into the debates. That's very important when you don't have the money to buy a lot of television advertising.
Yeah, there was a dramatic episode in 2012. Jill Stein, the likely candidate for the Green Party in 2016. In 2012, she tried to get onto the debate stage with Obama and Romney, and how did that turn out? Not well.
She was arrested. She and Sherry Honkala, our vice presidential candidate, arrested, held overnight, handcuffed to chairs, okay? Now, these women were on the ballot for 85% of Americans. So Americans have a right to know who these people are and what they stand for who are on their ballot.
On the plus side, the media was willing to cover that. We were all over that story.
Yeah, it was a crime.
Right.
You know, the European press picked it up and they said, my God, a sitting president has arrested one of his rivals. But in this country, it was just kind of business as usual. Nader was arrested trying to get into a debate as well. So we have actually joined with the Libertarian Party in a lawsuit against
not in a full-on union of
political
political interests.
Obviously, we have a lot of political differences. But on this we agree, and that's that all candidates who are on the ballot ought to be able to participate in the debates. Most Americans don't know that the Commission on Presidential Debates, which sounds so official, is run by the Democrats and the Republicans, you know, for their own benefit. And we don't think that that's democracy. So we'll be working on that as we get closer to that election.
So here's a somewhat impolite question, and it has to do with the percent of the vote that the Green Party has gotten in the last 15 years. I think Nader got 2.7%, and that's the high on the national level. Given the minuscule support at that level, why stand alone as a party? Why not become a faction of the Democratic Party or even the Republican Party? Why not throw your shoulder against an existing movement rather than try to create your own?
Well, you know, Tony, since 2007, the majority of Americans have said we need a third party. The Republicans and the Democrats are doing such a poor job that we believe a third party is necessary. So we're there to provide that for people. Now, the fact that people say we need a third party, as you pointed out, doesn't mean that they're going to vote for every Green candidate that they see on the ballot. People support our issues. Often our candidates poll much higher than they actually, turn out to deliver on Election Day. And that's because people are afraid to vote for a third-party candidate. They're afraid that it's going to elect the candidate that they don't want.
Because their vote is thrown behind someone who's not going to win, and rather than towards someone who has a good chance.
Right. Okay. So they may vote for what they consider the lesser of two evils, or of course, increasingly,
we should talk about the evils, by the way.
Stay home. But I'm not sure I really answered your question. So we feel like we need to offer that alternative. Let me tell you a story about a guy named Asher Platts.
All right.
He is one of our leaders in the main Green Party, and he also now is involved with the Green Shadow Cabinet. And Asher worked on the Dennis Kucinich campaign in 2008. And he had been involved, he had kind of dabbled with the Greens before, but he was thinking, like you're saying, why not put your shoulder to the wheel and try to make change within the Democratic Party? Well, after his experience with the Kucinich campaign, he said to himself, you know what? There's no changing the Democratic Party from within. There is no really getting these progressive candidates in here. So he left them and he came with us. So
wow. So
that's what happens.
A defector, a big defector.
Yes.
You mentioned the evils, the lesser of two. Let's talk about the field of evils on the Democratic and the Republican side. Is there a particular candidate that, from a Green Party perspective, I mean, I bring this up because politics relies on tension and opposition. Your point of view is clarified by tangling with the point of view of someone else. So, of the Republican candidates, is there a particular opposite? A candidate you would just be no Green Party person would like any of their positions?
Well, you know, speaking just for myself, I love the idea of a Clinton-Bush race, because to me that is just so points out all the problems of this system that we have. The Clintons and the Bushes were in office for 20 years, from 1988 to 2008, and now just more of the same. You know, change is more of the same. We don't think that adds up, and we'd love to be up against that. Although we don't think there's really all that much difference between any of them. And of course, everybody is saying that Clinton is inevitable. People really want to see Elizabeth Warren run, but she's been pretty clear that she's not going to run. So our situation will be pretty much the same, no matter who is on their ticket.
The Green Party is behind, is pro-marijuana, right? Legalization.
Absolutely.
That, I feel like you could potentially bring out the vote with that position. I don't think any other mainstream party is going to take that. No,
they won't, even though the attitudes have changed so much towards that issue. And there are, I think, 19 states now that have medical marijuana. 5 states have marijuana legalization.
It's all medical. It's all medical. We're running out of time, but I don't want to have you go before telling us a bit about Jill Stein, who is the presumptive nominee for the Green Party. Who is this woman who I had not heard of until this segment?
Sure. Jill Stein is a doctor, an obstetrician, and it was through the course of her medical work and activism around toxic chemicals and their impact on people's health that she got involved in politics. And she's been a leader in the Green Party for many years in Massachusetts, and she is really somebody who is all about the Green Party. She has stumped through every state. She's helped support our state Green Parties to grow. She's very concerned with bringing in youth and people of color into the party. And again, we're not going to decide on our candidate until July of 2016. And there are some other people who put their hats in the ring, but Jill is like I said, has an exploratory committee. Her website is jill2016.org.
She gives a good speech as well. I saw her on C-SPAN. That's a big thing. I don't think in 2012, did she announce on C-SPAN?
I don't think so. We've been on C-SPAN quite a bit. They've been pretty good to us. But hopefully we'll get into the larger networks as well.
Will Roseanne Barr come back?
Not that I'm aware of.
No. Little known fact, Roseanne Barr was nearly was the candidate in 2012 for the Green Party. Or not so close after all.
Well, not so near, but she definitely did have her support in certain states.
All right. Karen Young, I hope you'll keep us posted on the progress as the election season hits us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.